Okay, Arnaldo again.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Arnoldo Rodriguez, Development Services Director with the City of Yuba City. The item before you this evening is a continuation of the item that was originally discussed before the City Council at the special meeting on December the 13th of last year. This project itself was initially proposed to the Planning Commission as a request to establish a biohazardous waste transfer facility here in Yuba City in an approximately 4,500 square foot building. Subsequent to the Planning Commission's approval, staff did receive an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision, and that's how we ended up before the City Council. Typically, most use permits do not make their way before City Council because in our municipal code, it stipulates that the Planning Commission generally approves the use permits. This proposal, again, it's a biohazardous waste transfer facility. It is not a treatment facility, and the applicant has no intention of proposing to try to attempt to operate a treatment facility. So once the material is collected from throughout the Yuba City area, the material itself is actually brought on site. It's actually not handled by the technicians. Rather, the containers that the material is actually picked up from a generator. Generators commonly include vets, clinics, dental offices, and medical offices. It's actually picked up by the trained technician. It's then transferred, or it's then taken to this transfer facility on a weekly basis. The material itself is picked back up, placed in a box truck, and then it's taken down to Fresno, where it's actually treated at a relatively large treatment facility. The site itself, simply for the benefit of the council and for members of the audience, it's located on the southeast corner of Industrial Drive and Industrial Drive. Industrial Drive is a loop road. It's a relatively nondescript parcel, as is the building. At the December meeting, the City Council directed staff to come back to the council and gave staff 3 directives. The first directive, which was to have staff prepare a resolution to deny the appeal to overturn the Planning Commission's action. The second item was to prepare findings pursuant to Section 8-57003D of the Yuba City Municipal Code, and to draft amended conditions of project approval based on feedback that the City Council received. Attachment number 1 of your staff report outlines the required findings by this by the municipal code. They're roughly 3 pages in length. Attachment number 2 of your City Council report provides 12 new conditions. These conditions were originally they again were not in the initial package to the City Council back on December the 13th. However, staff did add those conditions at the request of the City Council. There are, just to quickly summarize the 12 conditions, condition number 8 states that all loading and unloading shall occur inside. And again, I'm simply paraphrasing. The conditions are a little bit longer than what I'm going to read. Condition number 13 is a hold harmless agreement, also known as it's legal jargon to have the applicant hold the city harmless should there be any potential litigation. Condition number 16, that the applicant shall provide a burglar alarm system. Condition 17, the applicant shall provide a video surveillance system. Both condition number 16 and condition number 17 would be subject to the review of the Yuba City Police Department. Condition number 20, that there be no public drop-off at the facility itself. And then condition number 24, that a new fire suppression system would be installed, and that fire suppression system is subject to review by both the building department and the fire department. And then also staff prepared attachment number 3, which again was a resolution to deny the appeal, upholding the Planning Commission's approval of the use permit, subject to compliance to the amended conditions of approval as outlined in the in your staff report. So with that being said, Staff recommends that the City Council confirm the Planning Commission's approval, thereby denying the appeal to deny the project.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from council members for Arnaldo at this time? Seeing none, are there any public that wish to make comment? I see that there were no cards turned in, but just say your name and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Ruben Saldana, property owner at 3081 Industrial Drive. We've been out there approximately 27 years. At the last meeting, at the last council meeting, I think the mayor said that when he was out there on Industrial Drive, the traffic was 10 times as worse.
You know, during the construction, I don't know if I said 10 times, but it was
10 times, yeah.
it's
Anyway,
much
I don't know what day
extremely
you were out there. What year were you out there?
in the 90s and the 2000s when there was a lot of construction going on at the time.
Yeah,
There was a lot of traffic going on at that
there's
time.
a lot of traffic now, especially with the high school now. The high school's been there 10 years. I'm sure Mr. Harris can say something about that if he wishes. But, you know, and
I know
there's
what
a
you mean
lot
by high
of truck.
school.
I'm sorry?
I don't know what you mean by high school.
But the high school has been there 10
River Valley?
years.
Yeah.
Here, what I have. You see, River Valley High School's been there approximately 10 years. Traffic during the school and the events is pretty bad. And there are at least 4 large trucking companies out there in that area. And George Washington Avenue is a connector route to Highway 113. People going to and from Sac, Woodland, Bay Area.
Yes.
So, in these buildings, they were all in the county at one time. They were built probably in the mid-70s, something like that. They're wood framed with flat roofs. Weather and age has taken its toll on these wood structures. And the building codes in the county back then were pretty laxed. You know, they didn't have any fire suppression systems. There was no seismic strapping, hold downs, etc., nothing like that. They're right on the ground. So, you know, and I can speak firsthand, we had a fire out there in '06. It was a total loss, including the contents and including the fire extinguishers. The efforts of the Yuba City Fire Department saved many neighboring structures. We have since rebuilt under the city codes and compliances. We were required to install fire sprinklers and be ADA compliant, Title 24, etc. Sprinklers would have saved my old building and at least confined or minimized the damage. Eco-compliant was asked twice to hold a meeting with the occupants of Industrial Drive. This was brought to my attention later. This was recommended by the city, by Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Cook. They obviously failed to do that. They chose not to listen to the city. We just don't appreciate the idea that one business can so radically change the dynamics of a neighborhood and workplace without the need of the neighborhood approval.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's just the public, you know, we're speaking, and I just hope the council listens. So thank you.
Okay, introduce yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening again, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Joe Leon. I am born and raised in Yuba City. Went to school here. I actually worked on Industrial Drive for 15 years, from 1990 to 2005. I'm also one of the original 15 plaintiffs that has to do with water contamination out there. My history out there is quite familiar with everybody in the neighborhood and in the businesses that have come and gone in the time since then. And I can certainly tell you that we've dealt with a lot when it comes to birth defects, death, and very serious things of that nature that has to do with toxic substances. And what this business is, and what I pointed out before, was that the applicant was being untruthful, and they are dealing in toxic substances. I saw something that's on the amended stipulations here that they're not going to be doing body parts or anything like that. So if this use permit is granted, the same state filings that I'm going to pull that shows that they do deal in these items, we'll have to review them next year because every July they have to file those. Now, the high school that he's talking about is Faith Christian High School. The CEQA that was filed on this didn't mention anything. It said there were no schools in a quarter-mile radius, but that's wrong. Faith Christian, as the crow flies, is the high school that is there. And then also doesn't take into account the daycare facilities or the places of worship that reside 400 meters, and I think another one was a few hundred meters beyond that. We came here, and this is also, if you look in today's Appeal Democrat, this is the biggest thing on the local news right here, and it kind of downplays the fact that we turned in nearly 70 signatures to you last month. 44 signatures just from people on Industrial Drive and the houses immediately around that, and 23 signatures from people that we passed out and put things on their door in that neighborhood. So this wasn't all Yuba City, this was just our neighborhood over there. So we had 70 people. You also had a presentation by Arnaldo where he said we received several letters and emails from people out there in opposition to this project. Not a single one of those was submitted to you, not one. I've called the city, I've emailed Arnaldo and asked, why aren't those being presented to you? Because when we put this information out to the people in that area to let them know what was being proposed here, they voiced their concern. Not everybody can be here and talk. And they voiced their concern through letters and emails, and you guys didn't receive a single one of them. Not a single one of them is in any of the public records that's posted online for December 13th, nor for tonight's meeting. And I don't think it's fair that you may have had 20, 30 people. I know we talked to about 50 residences and people over there. 70. We had 70 people that we talked to. And more of those we're going to talk to their other family members and send you guys emails and letters. And to my knowledge, in the public record, none of those have been received by any of you. And none of that's being considered.
You're going
And
to have to wrap this up since you didn't call in or say anything
I
about
did
the
call
extended-
in on Friday, and I was told that I would get 5 minutes.
Then you
But
can
I was
have-
just told right now
I'm
that...
continuing it.
Okay,
So
yes,
you got
sir.
about another minute and a half.
Yes, sir, thank you. On the resolution right here for the city council, there's things that are wrong. It says, whereas the environmental assessment was not included in the appeal. Well, that's wrong because we did talk about the schools and how they are in the quarter-mile radius of that, and that was one of the things that's on the condition for the CEQA thing. And you got to ask yourself, like, why here? Well, with the transfer stations, we have one here. It's Stericycle, the largest one in the nation. And I told you before, there's a gigantic movement in communities all around because they don't want that. Stericycle, they're here. So there's not like there's a need and we don't need this. And it comes presented to the commission and to the council as red bag waste. And they gloss over things. And you talk about needles and stuff like that. And you gloss over the fact that what's really going on. And unbeknownst to the council, and I had to pull these from the Mrs. Dabney that was here last month from the Medical Waste Management Program. I pulled these state filings, and it showed last year and this year, and it showed almost 10 times increase on the amount of human tissue. Now, we won't find out about this again, how much they're going to do in the next year until next July. But you got to remember, when you look in the application, that's just a few hundred pounds of that type of tissue waste, just with them, with one truck. I didn't bring that, but it's just one vehicle. And what they are proposing to
You're
do
going to have
is
to wrap it up.
absolutely what they're proposing to do is to be a hub. And if you look right there, this is the basis of the appeal right there. And again, this right here is incomplete. When it's talking about the amendments to the agenda, and it's saying, when it's summarizing that, it only says half of that. when it says Part E, the project will not be detrimental to the health, safety, peace, comfort, and general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity. I can talk, but I got to make this really quick. Well, that's only half of it, and I don't know why it wasn't put out there in full. Or be detrimental or injurious to property in the neighborhood. Now, we've tried to sell our property. We're getting out of our business, and we have our property right there we're trying to sell. We've already had an interested buyer back out of the deal, pending what's happening with this. And if they move in here, we already have a history with toxic waste. It's going to paint our neighborhood as a dumping ground, and it's going to continue to make our property values go less and less. And that's certainly alone right there injurious or detrimental to our property. That's part of Part E.
You're gonna have to
Okay, I'll fix it right now. So I think the reason why they want to be here in Yuba City is because there's only a transfer station, the one from Stericycle. And this place right here, who has never done this before, the closest one is in Lake County. So there's a big gap of where transfer stations are. And if you look in their original application, they plan to be a hub. So they're going to increase traffic because just like they collect waste from all over the Bay Area and they take it halfway across the state to Fresno, or they take it to Hayward, they're traveling halfway through the state. So to say that this stuff is just only going to be from our community is wrong. This stuff is going to come anywhere in that bubble, from Lake County, Eureka, Fortuna, those are the nearest ones, and then Sacramento. This whole big area right here from Nevada and all that right there. And that's why they're here, because they see an opportunity.
Please stop.
Absolutely.
You're done.
Thank you for your time, and there's so much to say, but I appreciate you guys considering this, and the people, the business owners have spoken, and I hope you give some consideration to all of the citizens here, and somebody needs to speak out
Yes, understood.
because they say this stuff is safe, and I lost a brother, and 40 years ago, somebody would have spoke out and said this isn't safe, maybe he'd be here.
Okay, thank you. This is kind of a historical thing out there, and a lot of us do know some of the history of what occurred with Taylor and Dow and stuff like that, to the water, and the water table, and the contamination there. So we are cognizant of that. So we wish that had not happened and had to deal with it. With that, we'll move on and ask for comments, questions.
Through the mayor.
Go ahead.
Arnaldo, the changes that we made from last month, Echo Compliance is satisfactory with them, happy with them. They will take care of it. The issues that you've given us that we discussed, that's no problem.
Yes, through the mayor.
Yes.
I spoke with Eco Compliance. I met with Eco Compliance last Thursday, and they are they're in agreement with all the conditions that's stipulated in the staff report, including the 12 new conditions.
Thank you, Arnaldo.
Any comment?
Through the mayor,
Absolutely.
just a comment. Why bring competition into town for Stericycle? State regulations, as they increase, require the handling of medical waste products from the various locations. Those requirements become more and more stringent over time. The way it was handled 30 years ago, the medical waste was handled, was simply either to go to landfill, or it was never processed, or it went into an incinerator, and in our case, went over to Fremont Hospital for this town to be burned in the middle of a neighborhood. To my knowledge, there was no catalytic system on that burner over there. And so as we go through, again, more and more state regulations, more quality control over these products and certainly less exposure to the public, you'll see, and we'll probably always see, competition come along, because not one handler necessarily would be able to provide the best price for all of the various locations. Stericycle is located a matter of a couple hundred feet from here, in the middle of a one of our commercial business areas, and I have checked with a number of the businesses in there to ask them, have you been affected by this? Various businesses, whether they be CPAs, whether they be state employees, whether they simply have a restaurant a matter of a few feet away. And the answer overwhelmingly in my checking was not to one degree did we even know that they were there or that we were being affected by anything negative. They have a higher license. They're actually a processor. They do very little processing on site. It is basically small processing that they do at that location, but yet we have it just here, within just feet of us. The location, you're not going to put one of these things out in the middle of the hinterlands or on top of the buttes or some other place where it's not going to have some effect or some perceived effect on the community. The conditions that were talked about by council seem to meet a higher threshold than what even the Stericycle location is required to have. So with that, I'm confident that this will not have a negative impact on businesses. It's not going to have a negative impact on health, and certainly it does not expose the public to any greater degree of hazard than any of the existing buildings or businesses that are currently out there.
Any other comments from any other member of council? Well, I want to thank Arnaldo and his staff for working so hard to address every single one of the concerns that was brought out in the public meeting last time. Specifically the number 10 here also, where no human organs or limbs or, remains would be processed or go through there. The only thing that I know for sure that does go into those types of situations are when they remove something that's on your skin, that goes into a towel situation, and that's the extent of that type of thing that would be allowed by the state of California to go there. In our location, we actually have, as Councilman Buckland has said, we are putting a much higher level of responsibility and accountability on them than is necessary for even the higher level license. We're taking them above and beyond that to address all of the concerns that the community had out there. And we do sympathize with the fact that the water table was contaminated, and now you don't have the wells you had to connect to our water system. The building standards, it's addressed in here that they would be conditions that they would have to upgrade that, specifically that wall, and any ones that they need to bring up to building codes. It also has been recommended that, in fact, they plan on removing all the sheetrock and replacing it for the purpose of having a better firewall that would be in there for fire purposes. Also, the fire suppression system technically is not required there, but we're saying you need to have it. We're telling them that. And I am actually a little dismayed that somebody would basically slander a business. A little disappointed, in basically telling them, basically that they're liars. That's a little strong way to say it, but with all the effort that they've gone through, and the constraints that we are putting on them to continually say that they're going to break that, there is no way that runs into an account here. So I just, it a little bit dismays me that after all that work that's been done to make sure that they are over-regulated for our health and safety to comply with. With that, any more questions or comments from council? If not, I ask for some action.
Through the mayor, I'll go ahead and make that motion to move forward to, what was it?
Number 15.
Mine went off, so
I know, it was like, okay, we are,
I forgot to tap it.
make the confirmation to go ahead and
Deny.
deny the appeal.
And then, of
negative
course,
words.
we do have the corrected attachments
With the
that are in there.
corrected, amended conditions of approval.
Correct.
For the use permit.
Okay, I have a first, and do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Say no.
Out of state come in.
Seriously, they're not even
back in
from
the
here.
city to come in.
Guess what? 200 votes to vote you guys out.
Oh,
Unreal.
Happy citizens.
Okay, so was that a unanimous vote?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Moving on to the, I gotta get mine up again, and it,
Forget about this. I will make sure about that. I own all of you guys' reputations.
there we go.
Mayor, just point of order, if it's okay.
Yes.
I think the actual action would be to deny the appeal, upholding the planning commission's decision, subject to approval of the conditions of approval, and also making the findings as stipulated in the staff report.
There you
Yes,
go.
there it is.
Okay, thank you.
I was trying to find that, but it was gone from my,
Me
it
too,
was
but
gone
it
from my
was like
computer.
disappearing.
It went off on me, and so, and it wasn't on this other one here.